Welcome back to Explain America. This is your host, Kyle Becker. Well, billionaire philanthropist George Soros is busted dead to rights. He better watch his you-know-what, because if there is any political violence at his Hate America rallies today, he could be facing domestic terrorism charges. That's right, Antifa is a domestic terror organization, and if we find any money going towards them, you can bet that the Trump administration will know about it. They will have the ability to prosecute George Soros and any other financiers of political violence to the fullest extent of the law. So there are no Kings rallies across the United States today. You guys better watch your asses, because his butt is on the line today, and there better not be any political violence whatsoever. That is just a heads up, because it is really serious right now. And we saw the riots under Black Lives Matter that happened for months and months and months. And I don't think this is the same Trump administration that is going to tolerate this. But before we get into this story of George Soros and how he could be facing serious charges if things go wrong today, please like, share, and comment at Explain America. We appreciate your support for common sense journalism. Now, a new investigation shows that George Soros' foundations are funding the No Kings protests. These are Marxist AstroTurf protests that bring together the Free Palestine types, in other words, pro-Hamas activists, Antifa, which we're said doesn't exist, but obviously has manuals and recruitment on college campuses across the country, and of course, we saw the Antifa supporter shot Charlie Kirk, who is on trial right now. They want to act like this is a figment of our imagination. It is not. And if there is any political violence today, Soros could be facing some serious charges, because tens of thousands of protesters are expected to be turning out today. Soros, a billionaire investor and notorious Democratic Party donor, is the founder of Open Society Foundations, and in 2023, the foundation, working through the Open Society Action Fund, issued a $2 million grant of $3 million to an organization called Indivisible, and Indivisible is working directly behind these No Kings protests. The grant was dedicated to support the grantees' social welfare activities, according to the Open Society Foundation's website. And let me just add, none of these should be nonprofits. There should be, if you really want to get to the root of all of this, the IRS, all of this, no more of these politicized institutions operating as nonprofits. Like none, not conservative, not left-wing, none of them. Zero, none, okay? That's what should happen. Indivisible is to continue the report, managing data and communications with participants for the No Kings protests that will be taking place in Washington and across the country. That's according to Fox News.
And the Democrats today are a party of radical interest groups. Now, I will say one of the most important things President Trump has done recently is he has pledged that he's going to go after Antifa. And what I've been urging is follow the money, cut off the money. And you look at this No Kings rally, and there's considerable evidence that George Soros and his network is behind funding these rallies, which may well be riots all across the country. And Soros is writing the check. And so I've introduced legislation called the Stop Funders Act that would add rioting to the list of predicate offenses for RICO. Why is that? Because it would let the Department of Justice use RICO, racketeering, to prosecute the money that is funding the anti-Semitic protests on campuses, the pro-open border protest in L.A. and other cities, and these No King protests. Anyone that is supporting rioting and violence, it lets you go after the money. And I'll tell you, there are more than 200 left-wing groups behind these No Kings rallies this weekend. They deliberately are blind to what each of the others are doing. That's part of how they avoid accountability. RICO is designed for precisely that sort of criminal enterprise. And so I believe the Senate, we ought to take up and vote on and pass our Stop Funders legislation.
Now, Trump wanted Soros foundations investigated for potential violations of RICO statutes. That is criminal racketeering law. Those were put in place, you might remember, a long time ago to take down the mob. And it could be a very appropriate law to go after Soros and his radical left-wing organizations. And in 2017, Indivisible received more funding, not just from Soros, obviously, $350,000 from Tides Advocacy. That's affiliated with the Tides Network. It's a left-wing super fund. Now, the grant report for 2024 was not available on the IRS nor the Open Society Foundation's websites, though Soros foundations have awarded grants to Indivisible every year since the organization's conception in 2017. So again, Soros is standing firmly behind this group. So in total, the Open Society Foundations have awarded $7.61 million to the grants to the group behind the No Kings protest. So once again, we do not want to see any of your stupid rioting in our cities because you're pretending that Donald Trump is a king. Well, here's a news flash for you morons. Under a king, you are not allowed to attack the king with 90 to 95% fake news propaganda on a daily basis. You're not allowed to rally and protest and riot in cities across the United States or any other country where there is a king, so-called. And the idea that you live under some authoritarian regime is utter nonsense. You guys act the fools on a daily basis and nobody stops you. So what does this tell you about the authoritarianism in the country? It tells me you have no active brain cells because under authoritarian rule, you're not allowed to do all of these things. So you guys are obviously trying to get a reaction from the Trump administration to fuel a narrative, but here's the deal. We see you, and if you provoke political violence and incite riots, we will know exactly where the blame is. It will be on you. We have seen this before with Black Lives Matter. That was a scam organization, and they rallied for months and months and months and burned down cities, and 20 people died in those riots, but you don't see the media talking about that nonstop like they do about January 6th, where the protesters and the rioters who were essentially just allowed to show up because the FBI infiltrated all of these groups and they just were allowed to show up and mix in with the peaceful protesters. Well, they didn't kill anybody. That's a fact. You can look it up. Brian Sicknick did not die from rioters. He died from natural causes, and that was what the chief medical examiner said who looked into the matter. So the political violence is not going to be acceptable, and there are domestic terrorism charges potentially on the table because Antifa has been labeled a domestic terrorist organization, and Trump is actually looking into calling them a foreign terrorist organization as well. So stay peaceful, make your idiotic voices heard, but political violence, not going to be accepted. So anyways, thank you for watching Explain America. Weigh in with your own thoughts. We always appreciate hearing from you.